So I'm excited to bring on Brian Monroe as my next guest. There's a lot to get into, Brian. I want to go back to the playing days and kind of get started into Mario Cristobal stuff as well. There's a lot to get to, but how are you doing, man?
And everything's good. No complaints, end of the year, holidays, birthday, New Year's, just got to end it right,
Yeah. Before we get into that, and also, for people that haven't heard, Brian's been in the media, on the radio quite a bit. I want to start there, Brian, just maybe kind of what got you into doing that. You've been on the radio on 790 The Ticket and QAM there on 560. What got you into it? What made you want to do that?
It's always been fun. I've always been told that, I should do something in media or radio, TV or whatever, whether it means I talk a lot or I might know a little something. Who knows? Probably because I talk too much. But if we had the All Canes radio show that used to be on 790. We've now turned that into a podcast, the All Canes radio podcast that we do now. But I was asked to be on that, with the guys, Harry, Platon, and Beast. And I did it. We had a good time, it was fun. And that's when they said you should look into doing radio. So, I was like, okay, cool, maybe I should do that. So then, Beast had reached out, wanted me to get into do an interview. And then that's how it started. Did the interview. And then actually my first time, my interview was actually the Notre Dame game in 2017 on campus. We did a show there and I did it with Captain Curtis. And did a 4-hour show and it was a blast.
Yeah. And how'd you go from, just kind of maybe dabbing it a little bit to, I want to keep this thing going. What have you learned that you've liked about this kind of being in this space a little bit?
So I just like sports in general. I'm a junkie when it comes to football and soccer mostly. But live sports it's just a thing. And, what you do in radio as far as your research part of it, I enjoy doing anyway. So I enjoy reading up on recruiting, from your website, of course, obviously. And I enjoy the journey of that. I enjoy the process of the NFL draft. I enjoy college, high school, NFL. So to say, hey, you can get paid for this and you're pretty good at it, just seemed like a match made in heaven. So yes, as we started doing some other things and I was more of like an analyst and doing pretty well with that, then they asked me, hey, we want to see if you could host your own show. So then I got to hosting my own show and it's just exciting. It's fun, every day, you get to go in and talk about sports, you get good banter with whoever you're with. You get some arguments, which is always a good time. And, you just get to give your opinion.
And Brian, and I want to go, we'll talk about that 2003. We kind of had that parallel. Obviously, that was your first year at UM. That was my first year covering the team. So, and it feels like with Coach Cristobal, and you're probably feeling the same way, just it feels like this full circle thing because he was there, most of the time that you were at UM as an assistant coach there. And I know for me, just kind of looking back at all these names, people that played for him and kind of remembering him back then. So as soon as his name, as it was official, I thought it'd be great time to catch up with you even more. It's great to see you're doing well, for sure. So let's do it. So you were there, 03 to 06. Cristobal comes in there in 04, starts as an O-line or tight ends coach, and then moves to O-line. What was your initial, just your impressions of him then, and then also Brian, your take on him now, stepping into this head coaching role here?
So it's funny. I always tell the story about, Coach Cristobal, as guys, we really didn't know who he was. We know he played, he won a couple championships, but you didn't know him as the man or who he is. So we used to do a training camp and every coach would have, their little segment where they get to talk to the team about whatever it was, what's going on in the community, what we're going to do this, behavior, whatever. So Cristobal gets up there and, he plays a video and it's like, like lions hunting zebras and like attacking them and stuff like that. And then, this is when like MMA wasn't really a thing like that. It was more like that barbaric stuff back in the day. And, he did a little MMA. He dabbled in a little MMA back in the day. So we're all watching this video and then he puts it on. Then at the end, like there's dudes fighting and one dude pins another dude and just elbowing, smashing a dude's face. And then Cristobal gets up to the podium and like smashes the podium. And everyone gets on his seat like, oh, shit, it's going down. And it never changed from that. Coach Cristobal was always that type of guy, high energy, passionate, and you found that out very soon, but then you also found out the other side of Coach Cristobal. He was always an open door coach. Even though he wasn't my coach, you could come in there and ask him any type of you wanted, any help you needed. And I think that's why you see a lot of these former players that are so excited to have him back, but not even just Miami. You look at the Oregon guys and how many of them said stuff on Twitter and social media thanking him. You heard a lot of things about father and all the different types of bonds it created, and you see that everywhere he goes. There's been some coaches that have been left schools and you didn't see anybody talk about them, a la Brian Kelly. So it shows you exactly why Canes are excited. You have one of your own back, but you have one of your own that everywhere he's gone as a head coach, he's been successful, and you have hope, and you're like, okay, they're doing it. The school is doing it. They're putting in the resources finally. They're giving him, a budget that he's going to be able to get a top-notch coaching staff. And it makes it exciting for the future.
Does it feel different, Brian? You obviously been around coaching changes. We follow the program for a while now. There's been coaching changes, things, you always hear things might be different. Does this one feel different to you? And I know the money and all this stuff that they're talking about, but in your mind, just can you reflect on that maybe?
Yeah, I think it feels different. Well, first and foremost, resources, right? If you want to compete with these big boys out there, the Ohio States of the world, the Clemsons, the Alabamas of the world, it starts with resources. And, we haven't done that before. We haven't been able to back coaches the way that we would hope to compete financially. And it starts with that. And all of a sudden you see a little change at the top saying, okay, we're going to do it. So we're all sitting there like, yeah, sure, we're going to do it. Let's see. And then next thing you know, you see the numbers. Then you see the AD hire today, and you see the numbers with his contract, and it's okay, we're doing it. And that I think gives guys the most excitement to say that Mario is going to be able to hire that staff that he needs. He's going to have the resources to go and recruit the top guys in the country and compete. Because to me, it starts with the resources. The only way you compete with the big dogs is you have to start with the resources. You got to put the right man in the position and give him the resources to go compete. Then he's got to find the right guys. And that's when it says, all right, guys, let's get to work. Let's grind, because now I got to identify the right players that fit our system that want to work.
Brian, it feels outside looking in, kind of seeing the alumni, the former players. Look, over the years, I've kind of shared this before too. Just look, there's been times former players, I catch up with them. They're not really interested in going on record to talk about some of the things that have gone on at Miami or what's going on and things like that. And I know, look, all you guys are going to be proud to be at Miami, that you're former players regardless, right? Like, but the pride, you've probably, obviously been in touch with guys now. What's the pride level like, and maybe kind of the reaction from the alumni, if you could speak on everyone's behalf, so to speak, but just, you know what I mean though? Like it definitely feels like, I would assume just more pride in what's going on, and with the changes that are being made right now.
Yeah, I from the guys that I've talked to, obviously I can't speak for everybody out there, but you can see the excitement. Everybody that's been around Coach Cristobal, whether it's they played with him, he was coached by him, they might have worked with him somewhere, knows the type of guy he is. So they know what we're getting as a coach. And I think that's more exciting than anything. Then they also know that he's not going to be handcuffed. He's got the resources to go get a great DC, a great OC. Hopefully kind of follow the formula that Nick Saban's done with all these analysts, because that's huge now. You 10 former coaches and they're just breaking down film. So I think that's exciting. But we're all, I would say, more confident that you have a guy that has been successful at two different stops as a head coach. He had that dumpster fire at FIU, and he took them to the Sun Belt champion. Then he went to a bowl game. What did he get? 2 Pac-12 championships in 3 years there, and also played another one this year. You look at it saying you're taking the right steps, to getting back to competing for a championship, competing for the ACC, because there's too much talent down here for it just to leave every single year. Tired of Kirby Smart and Nick Saban coming down in their helicopters and plucking the guys that they want down here. And if you look at South Florida, or you look at Florida, and you say, if you would have just kept 5 of those guys, on this team's starters, what kind of team will we have? You know, so if Coach Cristobal and his staff were able to not quote unquote lock down, you know, Florida, because there's going to be guys that get away and there's going to be guys that aren't takes. But if you're able to keep most of those guys down here, then you can see like, okay, this is what Miami is about. And I think that's what's exciting because we know he's the guy that can do it.
Brian, I just kind of listening to you, kind of the season in particular. I know you spoke about changes that, you know, just kind of things you're noticing with the program or look, we all had opinions on what was going on. Team goes 2-4. What stands out to you? Coach Cristobal in, now what, right? Like, and I know everyone wants to jump to, you know, can Miami win the 6th national title? And that's kind of talk to me down the road stuff, but just immediate changes. What needs to change with the program as a whole? What does Cristobal need to do to get this team? Look, how do they win their first ACC championship? What do they need to do in the short term, starting with that? And what's kind of on your mind as he takes over here?
Well, you know, he mentioned 2 words that I think that we really haven't seen down here for a long time: accountability and competition. I think any team that is great, there's a lot of competition at every single position. You know, when you go out to Green Tree practice field, you should see high level competition. And I don't think there's been that, I'll use the word fear, as far as saying, all right, I can just go about my business because I know I'm going to keep my job. You know, any great team, you could lose the job to the 3rd string because the 3rd string is a great player. He might just not know the playbook, but he could take your job. You know, I think first and foremost, what Coach Cristobal is going to bring into that is high-level competition, practice, weight room, film, everything. Because if you can't compete, you're never going to be great. Accountability. You know, I think that you look at some of these past years, there hasn't been the most, you know, accountability with this team. You know, you see guys drop balls, jump off sides, and they stay in the game. You know, and that should never happen. You know, you make a mistake, it's consequences. You sit for, you know, a play or two, maybe a series. If you fumble and you're running back, maybe you don't get back in the game, but that keeps you accountable. And that makes you work just a little bit harder to know that if I do X, Y, and Z, I'm out, you know, and the guy behind me, that's a great player. You know, you look at some of our rooms back in the day, and it's always easier to say what Coach Solinger was able to do with those rooms that he had from like 98 to 2003. He stacked so much talent in that room. The competition was through the roof, but they knew if I fumble, Frankie G's behind me, or Willis is there, or Najee's there. If you don't have that, guys get comfortable and complacent. And those little details are how you lose a game by 1 point, 3 points. What did we lose? 3 games this year by less than 3 points? You know, that's that little bit of accountability that maybe in the offseason, if I would have done the extra film study, the extra rep, that I wouldn't be in this position. And I think immediately that's what he's going to bring to this locker room, because he's going to be tough-nosed, he's a no-nonsense guy, but you need that type of accountability to take the next step from being a 7-5 team to 10-2, winning the Coastal and competing for the ACC, because we can talk all the national championships we want. First is control the Coastal. You run that. Get to the ACC yearly and compete, because we all know Clemson's the standard in this league still. You know, yes, they had a down year. What did they lose? 3 games. That's their down year. They're still the standard. Compete with them recruits, compete with them on the field. And then once you compete with them and you beat them, now we go to the national stage, because there's a couple programs that he's been to, Alabama, where, I mean, listen, they don't miss. They don't miss. And it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of work. But you can see Coach Cristobal is a grinder. He's ready on the road recruiting. And that's what it takes to build up a program like that. And unfortunately, we're nowhere near that right now.
You touched on competition, and I'm just kind of thinking about it. And we've kind of heard that a little bit. But look, you were a player, you know, players know who's good on the team, right? Like, you know, if you can slack a little bit because you're like, well, they're not putting this guy in because I'm way better than, you know what I mean? Players know who's good. They certainly don't need media people telling them, but they don't need even coaches, you know, saying who's good. But I think the key is Coach Cristobal, and, you know, it's one thing to say, oh, I'm going to do this, but you got to put the pressure on people, but then make the move. I think too often that we've seen in recent years, particularly under Coach Diaz, I thought there was a lot of talk going on, but not a lot of actual results with making tough changes and tough decisions. And I think that's going to be something with Coach Cristobal. And I know we talked back on his days and even before 03, before, 04, when he became an assistant. Look, I think what's great about it is if we just take forget the Miami part just for a second, we talk about Alabama, everything he learned at Alabama, he's able to apply that to Oregon. And now that's where we're at right now. If we just look at what he's been doing the last 7 years or so, 8 years, something like that. But I think that's the thing that you can really look at, because he's been able to apply those lessons, obviously with his past as well. And I think that's the stuff that people can get excited about. And when you talked about him earlier, to me, it feels like, yes, there's a Miami thing that's part is great, but also if you just look at his resume as a coach, that maybe if he went to a different school, there's still a lot to like about if it was just, and I think he's the same way. I think he looks at Miami not just for that's the school that he played at and has coached at in the past. I think he looks at all the positives as well, even if he didn't go to school here. And I think it's been interesting, Brian. I know you've seen the comments about outside looking in and people doubting the Miami program for what it is. And look, some of this has been the earned responses from people based on some results in recent years. But I think there's a lot of positives with what's going on. I think Miami can win. I think you can win at Miami, and it'll be very interesting to see how things go moving forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of media narrative that, oh, Miami job is irrelevant. It's not a top job. You can't win at Miami. And obviously that was proven false because, when we actually opened up the paycheck a little bit, we went and got Coach Richt, right? An established head coach in Division I football. And guess what happened? We went to our first ACC championship game. We won 10 games. We were ranked number 2 in the country. Just from 1 year, So to say you can't win at Miami, to say it's irrelevant is just, it's laughable because, we still have one of the most recognizable brands in the country, in the world. Everybody knows what the U is. They hate to say, oh, the U. I hate the U. Yeah, we know that, which is cool. We love it. But you're talking about the hottest bed of recruiting in the country. So to say that you can't be relevant with just what you got around you, to me, it's blasphemy, but it's kind of funny. And you look at the pieces that are coming back from this team, and they have a good young core. And you mentioned something with, Manny Diaz keeping in certain guys and not taking guys out. And you saw that later on in the year with like the safety position or the wide receiver position. Very talented young dude. Now, haven't been in the room, so I don't know if they know the playbook. But if they did know the playbook, why were they still on the bench? But you keep those core coming back. You have Tyler Van Dyke, who arguably is going to be a top 3, top 5 returning quarterback in college football, probably the best quarterback in the ACC coming back. And you bring in Cristobal, you bring in, whoever they bring in, new OC. Maybe you upgrade the coaching staff, go get some bigger pieces on the offensive line, get him some weapons. This thing could be fun next year, like look at the Coastal. You're losing Kenny Pickett and potentially losing Sam Howell. So that means who is the team to beat next year? Virginia Tech? Maybe, and then, yeah, we got a tough game. We got to go to Clemson, but that'll kind of, cool. Let's see what we got and what we're made of. But, I just look at the Coastal next year as saying we return a lot of talent. We should be upgrading the coaching staff. We might get some pieces in the transfer portal. We should compete. And that's all I want to see. And I think all former players want to see is compete. Just go out there and show that we got fight. And there's some games where they just look like whatever. You start off so slow and then all of a sudden we come back in the second half. Why? Can we change that with the new coaching staff? Why are we so bad off a bye week? Can we change that with a new coaching staff? Can we start, fast? We're one of the worst penalized teams in, college football. Can we change that with some discipline? We're the worst tackling team in America. Can we change that with some discipline or some new faces to say, do X, Y, and Z, And then I think that's what give you the positivity for next year.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that stands out, and this is what I remember from Coach Cristobal for a long time, and he mentioned in his press conference that he likes guys that love football, love the game. He knows that is important. I think, searching for those guys and having personal accountability for being out there. Brian, your freshman year, let's go back, 2003. I always talk, for me, it was a huge thing for me personally, because I didn't study journalism. I just got into it, that kind of thing. I didn't grow up in Miami. I'm coming here. They had 6 first rounders that year: Sean Taylor, DJ Williams, and the crew. What do you remember as a freshman stepping into that? And they just lost the national championship game the year before, just 2 years removed from a title. But what was it like for you, kind of stepping into all this with all the stars and other guys too?
It was different. You're coming from high school and you're stepping into a locker room where we got, men. We ain't got like boys and grown ass dudes in there. You got Vince Wilfork walking around just, looking like he's 35 already, and they struck a little fear in you. You're a freshman, kind of like walking on eggshells, like, ooh, I don't want to step, I can't sit on the couch. Okay. Can't walk into you. What can't I do? Cause I'm gonna get my ass whooped. And that's back in the day, it happened, but, I was very fortunate because I was a punter, so I was considered the defensive. I sat on the defensive bus. And again, you get on the bus, you don't have a seat. Seniors got their seats, juniors got the seats. So you kind of have to be the last one on. And I was fortunate because John Square, he looked at me and he just like, he took pity in me. And he was like, all right, come on, freshman, you can sit next to me. I was like, oh man, appreciate that. But I was surrounded by the best of the best. In front of me was DJ Williams. To the right was Sean T, Vince Wilfork, Antro Roll, Vilma. And you just hear those conversations from those guys, all going on to be first round picks. Some going to be Hall of Famers. And it was just, you really don't understand the greatness you're surrounded by until, later on. But it definitely was a unique situation because it's definitely different than high school football, especially me. I didn't grow up in, high school football or football in general. I was a soccer guy, so I didn't realize all that until you get to the U and really start learning about it.
You have a good Sean story that stands out to you when you think back on him? And I'm sure there's countless things that stand out to you with him, but just, is there something in particular, Brian, that stood out to you or memory about him?
So I always have a Sean story that, I always remember because it was my mistake of talking shit. So, I played scout team receiver and, I've always been competitive and, known as, I guess you would say, athletic growing up because I played soccer, track, everything. But then going into the football world, I was, a kicker punter because of the soccer background, but I didn't understand that you're not supposed to be athletic or you're not supposed to be that guy. You're just a dude in the side, kick the ball. So when we were playing scout team, I'm doing my best. I'm trying. I'm hard, trying to bomb them up. So I remember I was running a 9 route and, I'm running full speed. I feel like I'm not slow and I catch a bomb and I'm talking a little trash. And Sean looks over like, what'd you say, freshman? And I was like, oh, shit. So Coach Shannon, of course, is like, run it again. I'm like, oh, man, here we go. So I'm running down the sideline. I look at Sean. Sean ain't looking at the ball. I'm looking at the ball. I'm looking at Sean. I'm looking at the ball, looking at Sean. And then Sean just comes and decleats me. And he's like, you saying something now, freshman? I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm good. I'm not going to say anything ever again. But yeah, Sean was the most talented dude I've ever been around. He would do things that you couldn't understand. I mean, he literally could have been an all-pro receiver, running back, whatever he wanted to do.
And it doesn't surprise me that's the story you went to because, yeah, we used to be able to see practice, more, yeah. a lot more. All the spring, I remember we used to see the whole, like the first 2 weeks of fall camp leading up to the first game. So, and for me, I was soaking everything in, and I didn't talk to anybody. I sat there with my notepad and just took it all in and watched everything. So, and yeah, you weren't alone, Brian. You weren't the only one he would hit. So that's good. The other thing too, man, I kind of think back to your recruiting class, the guys you came in with, and I know you're still close with John. You talk about your class a little bit, man. Like, it just seems like a good group of guys. Interesting how all their careers have gone, but just what was your recruiting class like there? And obviously headlined by Kyle and a lot of attention on him. But just what can you say about your class there, your classmates, man?
Yeah, so we had a unique group made up of a lot of guys. Obviously we had Kyle, 5-star, #1, Cali boy coming in early. We had the Ely guys that just won state championship, cheaters. You know, because we played against them. They cheated to win, but it's all good. And I had to be roommates with them, so that kind of sucked. And we had a nice little mix of guys from Broward, Dade, Palm Beach, and Florida. So there was that, you know, that talking the trash from Cali and Florida, and we beat you in the playoffs and the whole 9 yards. But we had a lot of talented guys, and you know, I don't think people realize that. You know, nowadays it's, oh, freshman come in, oh, he's a 5-star, he's gonna play right away because he's gonna take somebody's spot. No, that's not. I mean, listen, you know, you just mentioned Jon Beason. You know, he was a 5th-string safety when he came in. You know, he wasn't sniffing the field unless he played some special teams, and he actually went to fullback to get on the field. But only 3 of us really played our freshman year. You know, it was me because, you know, special teams. Tyrone played because Tyrone Moss, rest in peace, played because Frank tore his ACL, so he got to play. And man, rest in peace, Brian Pata. He was just a man child. He was just one of the freaks of our class that you really had to get him in. And, you know, rotational defensive line, he played. But, you know, we had some special dudes, and then we added Olsen a little bit later on. You know, he came, he went to Notre Dame and realized this shit ain't for me. This is boring and cold. I need to go back. I need to go to the U. So we added that piece. But you know, we had some great dudes, some great leaders. It was a great time.
So yeah, I was going to mention Greg because, you know, technically not in the class, you know, because he did transfer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember it felt like maybe a week before that first game, or it was real late in the process there. You get him. And then the way Devin's kind of recruitment went, he was in the previous class and then kind of, you know, eventually gets on campus. You have a good Devin story that, because obviously you heard about him, high school, his high school numbers were those things, what he was doing up there was crazy. And obviously you'd heard about him and stuff, but just when you saw him on campus and then played with him, you know, you got to see the career that he had at UM. What stands out to you about Devin? Anything particular?
So I actually played against Devin in high school. So he was at Suncoast and I was in Palm Beach Gardens. And I remember my coach said, don't punt Devin Hester the ball. So I was like, all right, cool, I got this. So I turned to the sideline.
You've been hearing about him, right? Obviously going into it,
well,
right?
I mean, you're in Palm Beach, so you hear the big names, you know, like I remember hearing Vince Wilfork's name and he's Super 11 player of the year. Then you got Devin Hester, all world #1 corner. You know, he's spatted up, taped up, everything. You know, he's on the cover of the sports magazines and you see the stats and, you know, so you know who the guys are. And you got the guys from the Muck, Anquan Bolden, everybody, Santona Holmes. So it's like everybody in Palm Beach knows each other, just like Broward and Dade. You know who you're competing against, who's the best. So we're playing them at Suncoast, and I remember my coach saying, don't punt him the ball. It's like, I got this. So I literally punt the ball out of bounds. This dude tiptoes the sideline and reaches over and catches it out of bounds. Turns back and takes it back like 30 yards. Didn't score, thank God, but I get ripped on the sideline. I'm like, coach, I punted it out of bounds. So in the next one, I said, all right, I turned and punted it 10 yards in the stand. And I said, how about that? Can't return that, can he? But yeah, you know, Devin is just he's a freak. Devin's a freak. Like even in practice, when you would mess around with him and be like, hey, you ain't gonna return this, you know, this kickoff in practice, and you go to tackle him, he does that. Still doesn't know how he does it. He does that one cut at full speed and doesn't change any type of acceleration. He's just gone. And yeah, broken ankles, you know, left and right. You know, my pride over Devin that I can always have this over him is our 5-10-5. So agilities. So being in the soccer background that I am, you have good footwork. So Devin obviously is known as one of the freaks in college football. Could never beat me in 5-10-5. And Coach Swayze, we were out there one time, and you know, Devin, I think, is running like a 4.01, 4.04. And I'm over there running like, you know, around the same. And I'm getting mad because I'm trying to catch Roscoe, who at the time couldn't catch him in the phone booth. He's just ridiculous. Devin's over there, man. Coach Swayze, what the hell? He's smiling and getting the same times. I'm like, hey, man, punters, we athletic too. So, you know, that's a little banter that we have going back and forth all the time.
Brian, you touched on, I wanted to mention this too. You said, you know, punters aren't supposed to be athletic. You know what? Honestly, they're not supposed to be cool either. And you always had this coolness too, and you still got it. And I know that people, you know, early on, I know people were a little surprised that you had a little something extra to you. what you touched on soccer. How good were you in soccer? And then when did football become not just like, oh, I'm going to play, but when did it become like, oh, yo, I might be able to play at a school like Miami? Talk about that transition for you personally.
I mean, I guess I was decent at soccer,
What position do you play mainly?
depending on the team that I played for, I played sweeper or forward. As I got a little bit older, I got taller than everybody. So I became sweeper because of my speed and my size. So my last couple of years playing soccer, I played in a select team in the Coral Springs area. So I used to drive 45 minutes to an hour to get there. And then I traveled half a year with a team before. We played against, Borussia Dortmund, Juventus youth teams and stuff like that. So I guess I got pretty decent at it. But, it's hard in America back in the day to get soccer scholarships. Most guys, if you think you're really good, you go to overseas and go to an academy and try to go that route. I got to transition into football because in high school, my sister's softball coach knew me. Told the football team, hey, listen, you got a dude that can come kick the soccer ball the whole field. So try him out. Now, I never did anything with football before this. Never really watched the sport, nothing. So, coach comes, hey, who's Brian Monroe? I'm like, hey, that's me. Am I in trouble already? It's like the first day. So he's like, hey, bring your cleats. You got to work out with the football team tomorrow. All right. Did my cleats, kicked a couple balls. He's like, all right, you're on varsity. I'm like, what? So I was like, listen, you got to ask my mom, because my mom is a little Irish lady that only thing she thinks about football, American football, is violence. So they persuade her to do it. I do my freshman year, horrible in my opinion. And, sophomore year, kicking coach saw me at a camp and said, hey, I would love to coach you. I got a couple other guys in the South Florida area that I think you guys will do very well. And it turned out to be 4 of us. And we actually all turned out to do very well. CJ Kogel from Deerfield, he went to UMass. We had Jay Octavia, he went to Stanford. And then there was Wilbur from North Florida, he went to Florida. And then there was me, and I went to Miami. So I guess I started getting more serious my junior year. My junior year, I really, blew up. I had a really good year for a punter. Kicker, yeah, kind of. We really didn't hit that many field goals, but like kickoffs, punting, had an 82-yard punt in the game. I guess that really kind of get everything going. So now I'm doing, football, high school soccer practice down 45 minutes to an hour, and it's became a lot. And then I got my first scholarship offer from Ohio State. And that's where you start weighing your options and saying, okay, go down the soccer route, which you love, but how much money is it going to cost? And, put a burden on my mom. Or got free education. I guess I'm getting pretty good at this. And that's really where I said, okay, we're done with soccer and we're going to concentrate on football.
Were you taking goal kicks? Were you that kind of a guy? Do you have? I know you said sweeper. Were you a guy that showed off your, that kind of thing in soccer?
Oh, loved it. Yeah. I mean, obviously, as you got older, the goalkeepers normally had the big legs, so they would do it. But as you're younger, yeah, take the goal kicks. But free kicks, all that good stuff. I'm going to try to take your head off when we do it.
Yeah. You said you still pay attention to the game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In football for Miami, or recruiting, do you have a good recruiting story? Why was it, I know obviously it's close, but what was it about UM? Was there a recruiting thing that kind of like pushed you over the edge? Like, yo, I'm going to go here.
You know what? Honestly, Miami's me, right? When I looked at all the different, my finalists, I was down to Florida State, Miami, Boston College, and Ohio State. Boston College, Ohio State was out because it was cold. I'm in the sun. I like it hot, from the Bahamas, Palm Beach, Miami. Florida then became out because Wilbur, the guy that I trained with, he committed to Florida. So they're out. So now we're down to Florida State, Miami. Took them a visit, Florida State. It's that college lifestyle, and it didn't fit me as personality. Like I can't see myself going to the same bar, the same frat parties, or this is what we do every day. Like, no, that's not me. Came down here, the ocean, going to the Coconut Grove and going out and the different cultures and learning new things every day. The city life instead of the college life fit me as a personality, hence why I'm still here and been here forever. And that's really attracted me more towards Miami. And then obviously, yeah, you're talking about a team that's coming off a national championship, just played in a national championship. As a recruiting process, you learn so much about the history. Seeing the guys competed at practice, that really was something that I was like, okay, kind of like this, and I was a guy that always wanted to compete in the weight room or agilities or running the whole 9 yards. So I like the competition level and that kind of stuff.
Before I get you out of here, touch on, obviously, I know about your relationship with Beason. Was that instantaneously when you guys arrived? And then what's that been like just throughout your, just the life, just that you guys have, just been close? I mean, what's it kind of been like over the years? And what's the biggest, you guys obviously similar, but also different too. What's maybe the biggest differences personality wise with you guys?
Yeah, I hated him at first, not gonna lie. We walk in and here's this dude that thinks he's the man, yo, hey, let's do this meeting. And it's like, bro, shut up. Who are you? And but Beason is, a great leader, and he's somebody that everybody wants to listen to and look up to. And you learn that over the years since I've gotten close to him, that we go back to Chaminade games, that we went to the playoff game, and the way that, his peers talk about him, or the people from Sunset will talk about when he came in with all the guys for the Super 11 All Broward team and how everybody gravitated towards him, or when he said something, they all were, okay, let's do this. But yeah, we didn't become closer until after our freshman year, because we both lived at Francesco Zampogna's house in the off season when we are all working out. And he was already there, and I came in second summer session. Again, we still didn't like each other, like, crack on each other, and, you kind of want to fight each other. And you see the similarities between our, upbringing, like both raised by single moms, both had silver cars, both clean guys that kind of like things certain ways. So it was time to move off campus, and we're like, all right, let's do it. So we became roommates off campus, and you saw those similarities, and, very family oriented. We had the same upkeeping as far as moms caring about certain things of our life and making sure we're doing correct things. And we're both, our moms are everything. And, then we left college and we became roommates again after college. Probably a couple years after college. He was playing in Carolina and I was still in Miami. So we became roommates there, and, it just, the bond is like, it's like a brother, it's not even friends anymore. It's more of it's a brother. And I think that's what, Miami is all about, is that brotherhood where you make connections that you're going to be, friends forever. As far as John, I also have Francesco Zampogna and Kyle Wright, both very good brothers of mine. But, John and I are just very similar when it comes to that kind of stuff. Where we're different, I'm very impatient. Okay. I speak my mind sometimes too much. John is a patient dude, and he's always very calculated. He always thinks about certain situation. And one thing his mom always told him is your name is everything. So you're always going to get, Jon Beason as a great dude, a great father, a leader, someone that everybody just wants to gravitate towards and look up to, and does everything the right way. I remember people be shocked that, okay, that's John. That's Jon Beason. Like, yeah, football player. And like, he plays football the way he talks. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, what? So I think that's where we're different. But, we get in our fights like everybody else, but we have a good time, and, it's life. You got to enjoy that. You got to find people that you can be cool with.
Yeah. And you touched on Francesco, and I know you guys been close to. I remember I told you this when it happened, but I remember Francesco with his energy. I don't know all the details of it, but when he had his energy, the powder stuff, and I remember he gave me a sample at one point. And look, man, I don't do exercise stuff, and I know you had some too. And I told you guys this. Look, I tried some of it, and at that time we were doing this weekly media pickup basketball game. It was like a lot of the local guys, Israel Gutierrez, George Sedano, even Levitard showed up. And we used to do this all the time. It was great as a young reporter. But I remember I told him I had some of that powder stuff. And again, I don't do any of that stuff. I had it, man. I was clanking stuff off the backboard. I was so just like ramped up, like not even hitting the rim. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Like I could just feel it. But I always appreciated just all you guys, man. It's always been cool seeing you guys together, and over the years, everybody, doing well, doing their own thing, but also just kind of seeing how you guys all been able to do stuff together too. So Brian, man, I appreciate you for doing this. We'll be in touch, man. I think right from the beginning, just excitement around the program, deserved excitement, right? Like there's going to be positive results. We'll see how soon all that stuff happens, but I think off season should be fun. I'll be curious to see those changes that we kind of hear about that need to be made, what will kind of be made, what exactly will kind of be done. And you touched on the competition, man, accountability, those kind of things. Spring ball, we're months away, but I know everybody will be excited for it, man. See how things kind of get turned around here. But I appreciate you, man. I'll let you get going. I appreciate your time. Good talking to you, man.
Yeah, brother. Anytime, man. Yeah, I'm eager to see the change in practice. I'm eager to see the energy level be cranked up in that competition that we spoke about. And yeah, spring's definitely going to be fun because, listen, no job is secure. If you think you got done dirty by the last coaching staff, let's see what you got. If it was truly them holding you back, here you got your chance. Because I know a lot of these guys are real vocal on social media. So here you go. We're going to see, because Coach Cristobal ain't going to, oh, yeah, you're the starter, so you're the guy. No, literally, you're open competition. Let's compete. And I think that's what University of Miami is all about, competing, and the best man wins.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Take it easy, brother. Have a good one, man.
Yeah.